On social media, here's Olamide Odekunle with all the stories. Olamide.
Good morning again, Etoma. I've never been introduced by you. This is an honor. Okay. I have to say, you have introduced me very aptly, Olamide Odekunle, and it's as simple as that.
It's straightforward.
Shall we see what everyone's talking about this morning? Shall we see what everyone's talking about this morning?
Oh, no, please go ahead.
Let's have at it, boys.
Yeah.
Good morning, Nigeria. Like I always say, TVC has a finger on the pulse and our eyes on the streets. And here on the Trending Now segment, my team and I do our best on a daily basis to bring you some of the trending stories that are shaping the world that you and I live in. Now, if you use OPay, PalmPay, MoneyPoint, Kuda, or Paga, this one matters to you. The Central Bank of Nigeria has upgraded the licenses of Nigeria's biggest fintech players to national status, officially allowing them to operate all across the country, while of course placing them under stricter rules. But for users, this is a big shift. National licenses mean higher capital requirements, up to 5 billion naira for microfinance banks, along with stronger oversight and mandatory physical office for dispute resolution. In simple terms, OPay now has more accountability when things go wrong with your money. Now, the CBN's move is a clear signal that fintechs are no longer alternatives. They are now systematically important. But it also comes with a warning. In 2024, OPay and MoneyPoint were each fined 1 billion naira for KYC violations, showing that growth without compliance will no longer slide with CBN. The bottom line is that this new enforcement is about trust, about protection and stability. And as Nigerians increasingly bank on their phones, the regulator is stepping in to ensure that your convenience doesn't come at the cost of the safety of your money. Let's have a look at social media. Benny Wynn says, traditional banks give you prestige, but fintechs give you peace of mind. Until the big banks stop charging 6.98 naira for every breath I take. The choice is clear indeed. Dami Esquire says, I agree to an extent, but the law and regulation actually explain why physical offices matter. Fintechs like OPay and PalmPay have done remarkably well without physical branches because their licenses were designed for digital banking and agent networks, not brick and mortar banking. That being said, having physical offices now makes legal and regulatory sense, especially with their upgraded status. And finally, Rabia says, this is a big move for fintechs. Meeting the 5 billion naira capital requirements and offering salary accounts makes them way more competitive. Traditional banks better watch out. These fintechs are leveling up fast, and convenience and tech-savvy services might just steal the spotlight. Fintechs are catching up, but some people will still trust the old banks for stability, so it's going to be an interesting year of competition. Now, Mr. Shomi, Mr. Edo, and Ibrahim, something tells me that you're old school guys. Something tells me that you like to go to your bank, hold a check in your hand, feel your money. You want to know your account officer personally. But fintechs are clearly taking over because now CBN has just finally, put them under their umbrella and giving them stricter financial compliance. The criticism with OPay and all the other digital fintechs was that your money wasn't safe. But these days, there's no transaction you want to do that you will not hear, here is my OPay, here is my Kuda. And so we have to keep up with the times, don't you think, Mr. Shomi?
Yeah, the banking system is now better than what it used to be. We now have banks, they've expanded their liquidity base, they've expanded their share base to the extent that some of them are now giant banks. But when you look at the fintech, we've done little with them. So we are now trying to make sure that there's consumers' confidence in fintech in a way that we've never seen before due to improved regulation. The only concern I have is the issue of security in relation to deposit. Do we have NDIC, Nigerian Deposit Insurance Company, providing the same cover as in the deposit banks, that is commercial banks, for the fintech? That is what is not clear currently.
And that is a very, very important question you just asked, Mr. Shomi there, because your deposit is actually who you are, especially for the guys. We get more confident when we know that our money is safe and we have so amount of money. But let us look at the issue at hand, that fintechs will now be better regulated now that we'll have physical offices. It will give a level of confidence to the users A friend of mine says he can never leave up to 2 million naira in his fintech account because he doesn't know if it is safe or not. Maybe now he'll change his mind.
I use one of those fintechs, and I can tell you that the one that I use is very, very safe. And in fact, I keep more money in it than any other banks because one thing is, okay, you also raised concern about the NDIC insured. The one that I use, I know that is well insured by the NDIC. So the fact that people are worried about safety is very genuine. But other banks, conventional banks, I always believe that banks of this world are designed to steal your money. One way or the other, they give you charges for these and that and all of these. And then one thing is, you not be wondering. There is one of the conventional banks where I kept some money. I did not even go there, just little amount of money. And at the end of the day, I saw that the money is not there any longer. Stamp duty, stamp these, all of these and that. But with the fintech that I use, I tend to see, interest now and then. Even now, I just decide like, okay, don't give me interest again because I do not believe in it. So, it really works. And if you go to some of those developed countries, tap and go, it's quite easy. So it's good that it's not been nationalized, and then the fund base is, has been jacked up and all of that. That gives it more credibility, but it makes liquidity very, very easy.
Absolutely, and it's important to note that the compliance level of these fintechs will determine how they're accepted and implemented. Thank you so much. Now we go from trust in digital systems to fear, unfortunately, on Nigerian roads. A viral video circulating online shows a heartbroken mother breaking down in tears as she begs for help after her daughter was kidnapped by suspected bandits who are now demanding 30 million naira for her release. Now, according to details shared by a social media user, this incident occurred in Kogi State, and the kidnapped girl has now been identified as Binuyo Latifat, who was abducted while traveling to the NYSC orientation camp. In the clip, the distraught woman is seen crying openly in the market and appealing to passers-by and the public to help her raise the ransom, a scene that has, of course, drawn widespread sympathy as well as outrage. Have a look. Remains a growing threat in Nigeria, with thousands of cases recorded yearly and students and travelers being increasingly targeted. But beyond the statistics, this video does tell a more painful story. It tells us that insecurity is no longer distant or abstract. It is personal, emotional, and unfolding in real time. For one mother who's only pleased to see her daughter return home safely. Let's have a look at social media. Ripe Plantain says, this crowdfunding is the core reason why kidnappers will kidnap a youth corper using a public transport and ask for 100 million naira, or kill a father while kidnapping the wife and kids because they're not expecting the money from the family. It's a failed state. Tim, unfortunately, this is a trend. This isn't the first video of its kind. It's apparent now that kidnappers are aware that public sympathy will fund their cause, and so they kidnap people. And the interesting thing is that they kidnap people like students and soft targets and children and women who are on their own. And what that tells us is that they're mostly after the ransom. But when the state, unfortunately, has failed this woman, where should she turn, Mr. Shomi? Yeah,
it's quite unfortunate. I mean, it's so sad. And the woman is clearly very distraught. You can best imagine how a mother would feel if one's a child is a victim of this kind of situation. It's so sad, very troubling, soul-stirring. But what I think is the solution is not what she's trying to do, which is to appeal to people to donate money, with a view to rescue her daughter. It will only make other people less safe. The solution is to, trust the government and leave it for the security services to sort it out. Otherwise, the moment you keep appeasing terrorists by paying ransom, the rest of us will be less safe. They will see it as a business and they will continue to kidnap people, and that's not what we want.
Oh, well, these kidnappers have seen it as a business long before now, and that's why they are kidnapping everything and everybody. The other day I heard a palm wine tapper was kidnapped. You know, they waited for him to come down from his tree and they kidnapped him and they were asking for 10 million. Well, the family says, we can't even raise 10,000. What about 10 million that you're asking? For me, I see these kidnappers as basically cowards, you know, that go attack soft targets and ask humongous monies that they can't sit down and work for. There, it's a call to the government again. People need to be safe in Nigeria, and the earlier we need this thing right, the better for everybody. That video is really heartbreaking for me.
Very heart-wrenching, because it's inhumanity to mankind. Because why would you kidnap your fellow human? And then you know that the people you're kidnapping, they do not even have enough money to feed, let alone to pay for their own safety. We've actually given that social contract to our governments to give us, you know, that security that we've always asked for. So they should do the best. They should ensure that no one is kidnapped, and any kidnapper that is arrested, any kidnapper's den that is also discovered should be destroyed. That kidnapper should be made as lesson to others. I will always advocate for that kind of capital punishment for those kind of people. They should be publicly executed.
It would be great to see the relevant authorities respond to this woman and give her the help that she so clearly needs. Thank you for your input, team. And while insecurity continues to define daily life for many Nigerians, stories of resilience are also finding their way online. Now, a Keke driver is currently trending online after using a smart and very practical way to communicate with his passengers. Now, the driver, who is deaf, caught public attention when a passenger shared a photo of a printed notice placed inside his tricycle, politely informing riders of his condition and asking them to just tap him when they're ready to get down. Well, this simple message quickly resonated with many Nigerians. And in a Nigeria that often doesn't cater to persons with disabilities, where many are sidelined and forced to find their own way in a world that isn't necessarily designed for them, the driver has drawn a lot of widespread commendation. But at the same time, some have questioned whether him driving without hearing is safe. Well, this moment has revived discussions around accessibility, inclusion, and how Nigerian society responds to disability. Let's have a look at social media. Very innovative if you ask me, but we'll debate it. Kingozi Egbe Odion says, wait, I don't get it. How can a deaf person hear a car or trailer horn on the road? I'm not against people with disabilities running businesses, far from it, but I'm worried about everyone's safety. In Nigeria, it's just too risky for a deaf person to drive commercial buses, Okadas, or tricycles. OG Lock says, Omo, how you want to take know which direction they're heading to? I guess the first part of stopping a ride is telling the driver where he or she is going. Someone please enlighten me. And finally, Wise says, this is good. Instead of begging, he chose to hustle and make his own money, and I'm really proud of him. Team, this does raise a very important discourse. It raises our dialogue about accessibility in Nigeria. You know, I thought that was a very innovative and practical way for him to approach his chosen profession, but others disagree. Is this man a tactical man who is surviving, or is he a threat on our roads, Mr. Shomi?
Oh, clearly, this is a good example of there is ability in disability. I mean, he's willing to, you know, make himself useful to society. He's not willing to start begging or living a destitute life, but willing to, you know, work for the money. And then he has actually come out with a way of communicating with the passengers. I understand all that. But at the same time, again, there's also the issue of public safety, you know, because there's no way whether he can hear any horn or any alert or somebody trying to alert him about a danger with his own, he probably would not hear that. And I do not expect the passenger to be the one to communicate that to him. So while we agree that there's ability in disability, maybe in that situation, it should be restricted to local roads or local government roads rather than being allowed to go on the highway.
You just took it out of my mouth. I mean, if he's intelligent enough to communicate with the passengers that way, he's also intelligent enough to know the danger he poses as a deaf person riding a Keke. So I believe he would avoid all the busy routes and use especially used roads. But all in all, there's still an element of danger in it. However, I have to salute his never give up spirit.
Well, according to science, because I tried to do a very bit of research, they said it's quite safe to drive without you. With your hearing impairments, it's safe for you to drive because driving is visual activity, more of visual activity than hearing. That even those who are deaf, they tend to pay rapt attention to the driving skills much more than people who hear because of the sound, the noise, the distraction. So they tend to have, struggle. When someone who has lost, legs, you don't get into fights with that kind of a person because if the person grabs you, you know that you won't be able to. So they tend to have stronger,
limbs, right?
ability using other faculty of their being. So, but one thing is, as you've said, it should also be restricted to some areas where, as you said, scarcely used or sparsely used, by other commuters. But ability and disability and the ability to also make ends meet without having to be a nuisance in society. Kudos, young man.
Indeed, and if there is a danger to this savvy man being on our roads, the danger lies in a lack of road transport accessibility modalities for disabled people. Thank you so much for your input.
Thank you.
From everyday survival to celebrity controversy, Nollywood actress Angela Okorie is at the center of online conversation following reports that she was arrested over allegations of cyberbullying involving her fellow actress Mercy Johnson. Now, according to reports, Angela Okorie was arrested at her Lagos residence on Tuesday, the 27th of January, by operatives of the Nigeria Police Force Cybercrime Center, Abuja. She had reportedly spent the night at the Yaba police station, also known as Panti police station, before being flown to Abuja early Wednesday morning to face further legal proceedings. And photos now circulating on social media are set to show the actress in court. And this development was disclosed by journalist and BON Awards founder, Mr. Seun Oloke-Tuyi, who shared details on his Instagram, stating that Angela Okorie was placed on a 6 a.m. flight to Abuja in connection with an ongoing cybercrime matter, allegedly linked to Mercy Johnson. This report is coming just days after Mercy Johnson had publicly warned all of us on social media that cyberbullying directed at her and her family would no longer be tolerated in 2026. And she said that the emotional toll that online harassment has taken on her family, particularly her children, will not be taken lightly. Let's have a look at social media. Ismail says, you can have an opinion, but when it crosses into defamation or cyberstalking, the law will intervene. Moving the case to the Cybercrime Center in Abuja shows that the authorities are taking digital footprints very seriously now. And Jakes always says, Mercy Johnson arresting people, but she was against Senator Ned Nwoko arresting Regina's brother. How do we define hypocrisy? And finally, Mr. Chiboy had this to say. He says, another reminder that online drama can spill into real-life consequences. Allegations are still allegations, so due process matters. But this does show that words on the internet aren't just vibes. Let the courts do their job, and hopefully lessons are learned on accountability and restraint. And team, we've had this discussion several times. We've seen that there are real-life consequences and real-life implications for online behavior and digital footprints. And so Mercy Johnson is taking the right step here. She has aptly followed the Cybercrime Bullying Act, and she's going for it.
She has done the right thing. She has the right to protect herself, protect her family from being bullied. There should be no sympathy for any cyberbully. We know, yes, social media provides a platform for everybody to express themselves without restraint, but we should also understand that we can be held accountable for whatever you express on social media if it turns out to be a crime. So I think she's done the right thing, allow the police to process Angela Okorie through the criminal justice system and let the court decide.
Yes, and Angela, maybe when she was doing the cyberbullying and all that, she just felt it's the normal social media thing. My happiness is that the police are taking it seriously, and let's sound a note of warning to other people that find it safe to bully people through social media that, hey, it's no free lunch anymore.
a section of the Nigerian Constitution that gave you the freedom of expression, freedom of thought with the right hand, takes it back in another section, you know, with the left hand. So there is freedom of expression, freedom to talk, but there is no freedom after speech. I guess that was India that actually meant that quote. So we should be mindful whatever we put out.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for your input, team. We'll be following this story closely.